What is going on, everybody? Happy Monday. BobbyFi. I'm in Eric Sheets Haber. Hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas, New Year's, and hope they had a great Sunday. Hopefully a better Sunday than I did. It was not my day. I picked the wrong Bengals receivers. It's kind of frustrating when you put 60% Bengals receivers, but only 10% of them are Chase. I had a ton of the others and didn't have a good day. Sheets, how did you do? And then let's jump into today's slate.
I had my standard min cash in the Wildcat, which I seem to do every week. And then I have a lot of Antonio Brown. Maybe that's for another day to have a full Antonio Brown discussion. But
Yeah,
from a DFS perspective, he was disappointing. I'll just leave it at that. And I had a lot of him, so that impacted a lot of my lineups, and wasn't able to make up for that in the lineups that didn't have him. And that's just the way that goes. I did have kind of a what looked like a fun sweat that could have been on FanDuel, because I did have Rashad Penny rolling over there with a couple of others with Chase. I was in the top 50 in the Millie Maker.
Ooh.
in the late games, and I had Cooks. And Cooks actually had a 50-yard pass taken back, which could have helped. Yeah, I don't know if I would have actually gotten there, but I was rooting against Cooks anyway because I had San Francisco and Survivor, who had one half of very. It
was a little scary there for a minute.
Very fishy difficulties, especially with Lance really struggling, but they overwhelmed them eventually, And as far as that goes, the Survivor, we'll maybe talk about that football, but I did survive, but as did everybody else. So,
were there a lot of Tampas in there still left?
Just one.
Oh,
just one.
Felt like the Tampa was gonna. I really thought that. I mean, that game I feel like they
were dead, and then
it was nuts.
There were two Saints. That was a little fishy. Everybody else had all the big. Everybody won by 100. So we're gonna get 23 people going to next week, but it's interesting because they're double picks next week, and that makes it difficult. But fortunately, I'm the only. There's only one other person in the pool that has Buffalo available, who's going to be a 17-point favorite over the Jets, needing to win. And so we have a lot of leverage over some pretty fishy plays. Like Tennessee's, they're a good play, and everybody's going to have them. But to come up with a second pick is going to be hard next week, because everybody that could be a decent favorite either is unavailable or has some fishiness in them. Like no one's got Kansas City available. No one's. A couple of you have Green Bay available, but so what? Now Green Bay's not playing anybody. They're an underdog now to Detroit next week. And maybe Minnesota's the next best play, and they're no bargain. They could be playing Mannion again, and then they might be out. They might be sitting everybody, and then the next best one is maybe Washington, because Giants are not even a football team anymore.
Right.
So they can come up with two picks there. That's good for everybody. I'm just going to be taking Buffalo and Tennessee and just laying down the gauntlet. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I hope that works. Should be okay with that, with those two. I feel like I feel pretty confident in that one, those ones. All right, but let's jump into the NBA for today. It's obviously very early and it's a monster slate. I'm even debating whether or not to play because it feels like a lot going on, and I've played pretty much every day for the last 2 months, and it's just hard to know whether you want to get involved in this. And the one thing I'm just going to remind everybody is that there's going to be a lot of suspicious chalk this time of year, and every day these days. And just let's try to think it through, and I'll try to do that on the live shows, because we really some of these guys who show up, and you're going to get some Skylar Mays games, you're going to get some games from some of these other guys, but sometimes the value is a little bit skewed, and that median average is not nearly as important as the true ceiling average for guys who actually create and things like that. And something I just need to remind myself. I actually have been doing really well in basketball overall, except for the last couple of days last week, and unfortunately those were the biggest days. But I think that's something it's always fishy. It's easy to go back and say, oh, I should have done this so and so. But I just want to continue to try to find, when all the news breaks, the better values rather than just the guys who are going to be playing a lot of minutes. Anyway, sorry.
I would like to say
nothing special.
I would actually like to whisper something. I know what Bobby just said, but narrator or editor's note. There's a 70-77 with 100K for first. Bobby's playing tonight. I just thought I would just throw it out there to everybody.
It all depends on when I go back to LA, because if I go back to LA, with my older family, and then we've had some interesting COVIDness ourselves, that I can't really come back here. So I can't. I have to make a big decision. So if I leave tonight, then I might not. But you're right. I probably will. You know me.
I have another thing that I noticed, by the way, and
what's that?
I don't know why I wasted so much on 11 game slip, but I don't care. I noticed that when I watched Bobby's video with Rhodey, what I noticed is that when he shared his screen, the faces still remained in the top right and left. Whereas when I do this with Bobby and then I share my screen, the faces seem to disappear. So using a control group, I have a feeling it's on my end in some way, that maybe the way I'm sharing the screen is causing it. So I'm going to test it one more time today, doing it the way I normally do. And if it still gets that way, I'm going to do a little more testing and see if there's a setting on my end. So that's another good thing. As far as COVID on this front, by the way, I'm almost done with symptoms, thank God. Still feel a little weird, but nothing major anymore. And I'm still testing positive, which I'll probably do for several days though. But through the worst of it, happy, very, very happy that not to do a public service announcement, but very happily that I got double and triple vaccinated and boosted. God knows where I would have been without them, and God knows that I'm careful, even though I was vaccinated with contact as much as I can be. So that's my only PSA regarding.
No, I'm glad to hear it, man. I'm glad to hear that you're also doing better. That's the most important thing. So,
all right, so let's get into it.
Boy, Charlotte, Washington. Why don't you start this one off, because it's it's the first game of the night. There's a lot of reasons why, with a team that has as many bodies viable as Charlotte, that it's hard to have interest. You are down men on the Washington side, but you also at the same time get some discounts. I'm sorry, you get the prices raised. So it's a little hard to naturally just have like a huge amount of interest here for me. But how about you?
Yeah, so first of all, on the Charlotte side, the only guy I seem to have any interest in is LaMelo as a spend up. Certainly not one of my priority spend ups, so I don't know if I'm actually going to get to him. But we'll get back to that in a second. On the Washington side, there's like two value pieces that are showing up that have kind of their different recency biases. So KCP is one of them. He actually showed up for me as an okay value, and I got him really, really low owned in his last game. And one of these last two games, I forget which one. And he ended up doing pretty well for me. But I don't think I need to play him with all the other value on here. But the other guy is Daniel Gaffer, who I kind of inexplicably got only 20 minutes, despite going 9 for 10 from the field with 8 rebounds. He got 33 fantasy points, which was fine at that price, but it certainly isn't going to win you anything. People were really expecting him to get 30 plus minutes, and I don't exactly know why they decided to close with Anthony Lynn, but they did. I think Lynn might be out today.
Yep.
So that reminds me of the Moneyball scenes where they were, what's his name, Billy Bean really wanted to play what's his name, I forget.
You mean Anthony Gill? Is that who we're talking about?
Anthony Gill, sorry about that.
Yeah.
It reminds me of those Moneyball scenes where what's the name, when Billy Bean really wanted to play somebody, and Art Howe just kept on just not playing him.
Right.
So if Billy Bean just let everybody else go and traded everybody else, saying that now you have to play him.
Right.
So maybe like now that what's his name is out, Gill, maybe now Gafford might have to play. I don't know.
Yeah.
Any case, I would not let that last 20-minute thing dissuade you from playing him if you want to. I think there might be better plays, but he's the only other value guy I like. But the guy we really got to talk about is Beal. Beal has not really put up numbers this year until recently. And what's been happening recently is that he's assumed he's assumed point guard roles, and
seen it before from him, man. And he just puts up monster games when this happens.
And he's just been doing it. And in his last game, not only did he put up a monster game, but he played 43 minutes as well.
Mm-hmm.
We're now at a point where we're 10-4, given the fact that everybody else is kind of priced up anyway.
Mm-hmm.
He's legit, man. And I would very much consider a lineup with Beal and LaMelo. That's why I said we get back to LaMelo in a minute.
Right.
You can get something like that rolling. Then you're fading a lot of other stuff, and you certainly are fading probably the smart thing about waiting till later to throw down some bullets. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I mean, this game could. I don't know. Washington's not as much of a sieve as they were last year, so maybe it's not a great game environment. But You get two of those guys putting ceilings up, you're talking about maybe 70 and 60, or something like that, maybe 260s out there. Get you a nice start heading into those late games. And you could then maybe pivot and screw around if you get the results you want. So I kind of like Beal today.
Yeah, naturally, if it was a standalone game and we were just talking about this, I would be all over Beal today. I have a very, very hard time with a back-to-back after playing 43 minutes in a really heartbreaking loss.
It's not back-to-back. It was 2 days ago.
Wait a minute. What did DeRozan hit the three was 2 days ago?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then skip what I was saying, because that's what I had in my head from DeRozan. Because DeRozan hit the back-to-back days, hit the three, but I forgot that one was on New Year's Eve. So that's my bad. I agree with you in that case, especially that Beal is a strong contender. Actually, his point per dollar might show up as better than any of the in projections, better than any of the other spend ups from a strictly point per dollar basis. You also have, they raised the price on Kuzma because, especially in this matchup, I'm kind of glad they did because I would sort of be forced to play him. These guys are all going to look like fantastic plays on FanDuel, by the way, at their prices. And Beal, Kuz, I can't do the KCP thing. I just, sure, it could happen, but especially with Beal running the point, and I know KCP is going to play a bunch of minutes, but I don't need to spend 4,900 on KCP, who has he hit 30 fantasy points? I think he hit 30 fantasy points once this season.
Maybe.
And that's what you need, at least that, right? And it's the first game, and there's probably better value later. But I love the Gafford idea, especially like I understand that Anthony Gill, they like to have the shoot that. I think what was happening was they wanted to have a stretch guy on the court to try and oppose the Bulls bigs and to go a different route rather than trying to match up directly with them because it wasn't working anyway. So I think even though Gafford was putting up numbers, I think that's why they played Gilmore, because he can actually shoot it from the outside. But in this matchup, while you could say something similar where Charlotte could spread the ball around and all this, you don't have a true center and all that. This is a really good matchup for bigs, just from a rebounding and both offensive and defensive, a shot blocking upside. I feel like Gafford is an incredible play. He's my priority in this game. And I would love to take someone with this high of a total on the other side, just that they're all back. So, LaMelo is the most logical one. I think that there's always an argument for Hayward, Rozier, and Bridges. And then you've got Plumlee, who's been trending in the right direction in terms of minutes played. He until the Phoenix game where he only played 17 minutes. But I think that he's a long shot tournament play at best. So I don't think I'm going to end up with anybody on Charlotte, but I reserve the right to change my mind by 6 because they're very well maybe somebody who's sitting. You just never know what's going to happen right now. It's just there's so many games tonight. So I'm going to skip Charlotte, and I would say Gafford is a priority, Beal a good spend up. That's where I'm at.
And analytically, I'm trying to look at this just the game log watch for a second because I know what people might say. So I'm looking at this game log, and yeah, there are a couple of things that kind of stand out as kind of outliers. But I'm looking at these last 3 games. So, I mean, look, I'm not going to expect 17 assists, right, from Bradley Beal ever again, much less.
But can I one up you though for a second though, because he was even without the 17 assists in that previous game against Cleveland until they turned it into a blowout in the end of the third. He was going to play 40 plus minutes again that game and probably would have ended up with 70.
Well, I'm going to get there for a second. So even though you can't really expect 17 assists and maybe 4 steals is nothing you really want to think about either. He did only have 2 rebounds in this game, right? Mm-hmm. So you could expect a few more from that. Mm-hmm. And he was horrible. I mean, he was over 4 from 3. Right. And you know what I mean? And
8 for 20,
8 for 12, but 8 for 20 total. Right. So you got to give him some benefit of the doubt, that would make up for it somewhat there. So I think that the 60 is like legit, I don't think it's an outlier performance at all. And like you were saying in that Cleveland game, I mean, 10 assists, like standing on his head, right? Not even standing on his head because he had, he probably could have gotten a couple more minutes.
Right.
And there he had the 6 rebounds. So I think 60 is very, very reasonable here.
Absolutely. And it's not just Dinwiddie they're missing, and it doesn't sound like much, but they try to get Bertan shots when he's in the game. He's not in there anymore. Abdia sort of goes with the flow kind of a guy. There's not really, I guess you can kind of count KCP at sometimes as somewhat of a shot creator, and then there's Kuzma. But there's really not a whole lot he has to contend with. And even, by the way, Kuzma is probably not the worst play, but you're going to see when we get into some other games why these guys may not make sense. And nothing's going to be better than starting off with this Houston, Philadelphia, where you could throw away all your I don't know, Sheets, you might already have it projected because you're really you guys, you're filtering everybody's in, and there's no way Christian Wood is playing after. So basically what happened the other night, for those of you who don't know, with Christian Wood and Kevin Porter getting into the fight with the coaching staff at halftime, and then Christian Wood walking out the court, refusing to play. That's a real thing. I don't see how they come back from this, at least for the next game or two.
He's suspended.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Well, then he shouldn't even be in my player pool. But Kevin Porter is not going to play either. And you're going to end up with something here. Now, I haven't had a chance to rerun the projections because as I still have it in my player pool.
Same here. Yeah.
They're still in there. So, this will be a better for 6 p.m. Eastern because I don't really know what to tell you about who's going to start. And the good news is the first game. So we get to have this, first game slate. So we get to have the starters. But if Eric Gordon plays and you think this game can stay fairly close,
it can't.
Eric Gordon,
it can't though, right?
The only thing is Philadelphia has played down to competition all year long. So that's my only caveat. Yes, probably not. Probably it doesn't stay close. But even if it doesn't, then that means KJ Martin time possibly. Josh Christopher is probably going to become a tremendous play. Jalen Green. There's going to be it's a time to circle the whole Houston team here.
You might have Daniel Tice starting at 3,500.
Daniel Tice is going to be the cheapo. But there's times where I said to fade Josh Christopher earlier in the year. This probably would not be one of those times because not only that, there's no Sengun, who's the other guy they run their offense through. And while Josh Christopher is really young, why wouldn't they just let the young guys go out there regardless, get them their 30 minutes, no matter what, regardless of score. And if Josh Christopher plays 30 minutes, I think he can put up a number. I actually believe in the talent level, even though I don't. He's not the guy I always wanted to trend towards. So it's a really weird spot where you might, if you can talk yourself into Houston being down by like this game being 15 points or less, which by the way, it's only 13 and a half spread, which is kind of shocking to me. But this could have been like one of the 16, 17 spreads you don't see too often. But you could play Embiid on one side, who is absolutely going to crush these guys in whatever minutes he wants to. It might be a little too easy for him, but you could play literally like 3 or 4 Houstons, depending on how the starting lineup shakes out and whether or not Eric Gordon plays. But I really do think that this is like one of the stack and pray kind of a games. But my guess is by the time we get it said and done, Houston, you're going to have like one of the main cash game plays, if not 2, potentially coming from the Houston side.
This reminds me of, I got to ask Adam about this. So a couple of times over the past year or so, I've commented that whenever you have guys that lose like all their players and things look really, really hopeless, what I was philosophizing is usually probably a good bet is to bet on them in the first half if you can, at the very least, because they tend to always just make up, just do their best to like make up for everything. And the 2 or 3 times I did it, it worked out nicely. I forget even when. But Adam Perry, one of our good subscribers in the chat the other day, mentioned that he's been actually fiddling around with doing that on a regular basis, and I'd be curious to know the results of that, and how that's worked out, and whether he even thinks that tonight is kind of an example of that. Maybe because these guys both suspended for basically being whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe the rest of the team kind of just says, you know what, we'll give us a shot. You know what I mean? And maybe they'll make up for it. Look, over time, they're going to probably just have to give it up. But maybe even in the first half, if you can get them plus like 8 or 9 or something like that.
But they've got like 6 guys who can make threes. So if they make a bunch of threes, I'm with you actually. I like that way of thinking more than I do for the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so I think it's a really, really sharp point that you've made a few times here, and even when going back to the college basketball thing, I think it's a really, really sharp way of betting. And we do want to include more betting on our shows, guys. I also want you to keep reminding me things you'd like to see. I do my early builds every day, and I do my bets, and I do my play props. But I think that there's more I could probably be offering. It's hard when we come with the NBA because we come up to lock and then everything changes. So it's not always, those first builds, but I do want to, do whatever I can to help you guys better on the site. So just let me know and shoot me a DM. Happy to try and accommodate you guys as best I can. I know what my man K9 Bronco, who shout out to him for having a nice single entry win there, or single entry second place or second or third, whatever it was. But he's gonna tell me to cover more FanDuel. So I'm gonna, at the end of this, Sheets, if you don't mind, even if it takes too long this year, whatever, if we can do that, like 2 minutes on FanDuel at the end of each show.
Yeah, we can take all the time. We're already going to go so far over the.
Who cares?
Anyway.
Yeah, look,
yeah, let's do it.
We're not sitting here trying to get cheap clicks. This is our process. This is the way we do it. And you get us live at 6 Eastern with our more concise thoughts. All right, you want to start us off with Memphis and Brooklyn?
Yeah, this represented one of my better calls the other day when Memphis was playing the Lakers, and you're like, is this kind of hard? I'm like, to me, it's easy. Look, John Morant's gonna be the highest scoring raw points guy on the whole slate, and I think he was.
We were pretty much in lockstep on that one. I played him 60%.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was only the ownership that got me to fade him. That's the problem.
Yeah. And it's probably a smart thing to do. It's just, whatever.
Yeah.
So I like him, 9,800. It seems like a lot, but I mean, if the guy's going to put up 60 every freaking game, I mean, I don't know why I wouldn't play him. I do like him. I actually did make a couple of notes on guys that stood out a little more on FanDuel than others. And I actually have Tyus Jones on FanDuel a little bit. Aside from that, I don't really have much from the Memphis side. And on Brooklyn, again, one thing that you and I both kind of just picked up, pretty quickly was that eventually Harden was going to figure this new game out, without having to rely on fouls and stuff. And even with freaking Durant back, he is cranking it, man. He's got a freaking 7 handle on every one of his fantasy points over the last 1, 2, 3, 4 games. And I'm not particularly in the mood to fade that, if you want to know the truth. So I do like him. There is going to be a time where Durant, as a really low owned pivot, just
such a weird thing that we're in that world. Yeah, keep going.
Right.
He's the MVP favorite is Durant, or the MVP second co-MVP favorite is Durant. Harden, meanwhile, is having a down year, and Harden's the one who we need.
Right. And so eventually Durant's going to be like kind of a good low owned play that just freaking smashes. Maybe this is it. I don't know. Maybe this is the time where everybody says what I just said about Harden, and sees this 4 7s in a row. And maybe this is Durant's like, what about me spot? And just freaking just goes crazy. I don't know. Certainly possible. 11 game slate. If you get that done though, if you get Harden with ownership, and then you get Durant with very little, and you get Durant putting the 7 handle up, I mean, you could be in good shape. So I do want to play one of those 2 guys though, and I can play it with Durant. That'd be nice too. But that's where I'm at this week.
Yeah, so here's the issue I have with the ways to try to fade Harden, which, by the way, maybe we don't even need to worry that much about on a big slate. But he is, for me, projecting as the rawest, highest points, just regardless of position. And that seems a little bit, like it's a little bit because of what's been happening lately. I just want to point out they lost those games that we're talking about. They lost to the Clippers. They lost to the disappointing loss to the Sixers with KD back. They've been actually, they got actually worse somehow. Yeah. KD shot the ball well. The only thing that sort of seems to be taken away is that Harden has such high usage and has so much of the assist ratio, so it goes so much to him. And KD's almost like, it's like we want the guy. And it's not that Harden's selfish. It's just that so much he's ready to be the playmaker, and KD is more the ready to be the scorer. So it does make it a little bit less appealing. I do think if there was a time you could maybe take a shot with a Nicholas Claxton, it'd be if LaMarcus Aldridge was out tonight. But I think what I'm going to do is I have Harden or Durant. I think Harden is the priority if you're going to pick one of them. But I think that there's an argument to be made for Durant. And I think this is the kind of game where he could really get something going. And I think we're going to have enough value by the time the day's all said and done, where we can consider doing that with Ja, one of those guys with Ja on the other side pretty easily. And I really, these are the matchups I like Ja. And then, by the way, the reason he went off against the Lakers, my only fear was I said that it's games where they really need him because he needs to step up and go nuts. Yeah. Well, that sort of and he did it in no time the other night against the Spurs, so it's not always true. but Ja goes nuts when they really need him to, and down the stretch and all that stuff. He really takes, his usage goes from like 25 to like 45. And in that Laker game, what LeBron came out and did, what you should do on a back-to-back, they came out firing, they came out aggressive, they took a big lead, and it made Ja have to take over earlier. So it's really about game narrative for the way this goes. There's going to end up Tilly or Brandon Clark are going to show up as pretty good plays. The only thing that worries me about all these guys is that they all play minutes, and it's hard for them to work themselves past certain minutes. The Memphis is stubborn, and rightfully so. I mean, kudos to them. They really have played good basketball. They've got a lot of guys who are good, who just are really good at the game. I've heard some recent rumors. I don't know how real they are, and I think it'd be the most incredible trade possibly for both sides, but really for Memphis. They could maybe trade these really, really good, fringe players like Brandon Clark and D'Anthony Melton, who are, I think Desmond Bane, Brandon Clark, Desmond Bane, D'Anthony Melton, guys who don't get all the run they should, although Bane gets the run now. But I heard that for maybe 2 first rounders for a Jaylen Brown or something like that, maybe even 3. Let the Celtics rebuild a little bit. Although after Jaylen Brown scoring 50 yesterday, I don't know if that's going to happen. I just think it's interesting to try and speculate on these guys from potentially a trade asset standpoint for DFS purposes. And that would mean I give a little bit of an edge to Brandon Clark, potentially getting more minutes one of these days soon. And maybe this is the day for it, especially against a Brooklyn team that plays small and doesn't have athletic bigs. The problem is his minutes tend to come more in blowout type of games. So one of he or Tilly, though, I expect to have a good game. So I'll revisit this one later. I do think that right now it's going to be mostly either Ja or Desmond Bane for me. And I think Bane is a fine play, but like you're probably going to get 40 out of him. You're probably not going to get 50 if he has a good game. That's the only thing that worries me. But this is a game I could definitely consider targeting. And I think it's kind of crazy that I understand it's basketball spreads are weird, but like Brooklyn being a 7-point favorite against Memphis, I don't think Brooklyn looks like right now. They have not looked like the kind of team that deserves to be a 7-point favorite over basically anybody, if you want to know the truth. With Durant back, they have not been right. They barely beat the Lakers before. That was without Durant, of course. And then they had the tough one against the Clippers before, and then losing to the Clippers. So I just think this is a game that we're going to want to focus on. I know that I'm spending a lot of time on it, but we'll speed through the games that have a lot less intrigue. But this one definitely has some for me.
Well, if I'm going to spend even more time, I want to make one other point, is that if you want to make a case for what could change between Durant and Harden, if I pull it up here, I mean, look at his game logs here. One thing that I've noticed is that, and this was going on at the beginning of the year too, he's getting a lot of rebounds, 12 and 14 rebounds, especially in the last 2 games. I think that could go a little bit more over to Durant. Durant in this last couple of games only had 6 and 9 rebounds. Yeah. I don't know. Durant's like 7 inches taller than he is, right? I mean, maybe he could get a rebounder historically. Maybe get a couple more rebounds. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna think about. I'm really gonna think about maybe taking the shot on Durant. Actually, I'm gonna see, because he's like the last guy I play. Like I never play.
No, I'm with you, but we're in the same page here. But by the way, Memphis and Brooklyn will both give you a huge boost because they will play fast. So you're going to have chances if the game stays close. Somebody's getting 7x at a big price on both sides, and I think those guys are definitely obviously the most likely candidates. All right, you ready to talk about Orlando, Chicago?
Yeah, pass.
Yeah, Orlando is. If we really think that Orlando is going to come out with the same team they came out with yesterday, I would be really, really, really surprised. So if we hear about, I'm waiting for the guys who, and that was yesterday. I'm pretty sure about that because that was the 50 for Jaylen. Yeah, they played yesterday. So my guess is somebody sits here. I don't know that for sure. I'm just going to say that I will wait on any Orlando news because I don't want to make any commitments with these guys possibly sitting. But even Bamba might be out again because he only played a few minutes yesterday. But maybe they play him limited minutes on the back-to-back. But it could open up some things. So we'll just keep an eye out for it is the best way I could put it. I don't really think I need to play anybody. I think that you're fine with taking a shot on RJ Hampton, whose game I actually like quite a bit. But I just, the back-to-back, I mean, first of all, I think they're going to get slaughtered. But there's probably going to be some chances for some of these guys because I think you're going to see some bodies sitting tonight. On Chicago's side of it, boy, I don't know what we can do here.
You want to do a reverse home revenge with Vooch if you want? I mean,
if it was in Orlando, I would maybe consider. And by the way, it's probably not the worst idea to consider it. He was one of my 2,500 guys the other night, and he was really good against Atlanta. I don't know how he is. Like, nobody puts up numbers against Capella except for Vooch for some reason. But I think that it's probably just the best to stay away here. I do think we should probably consider the Bulls a little higher than we have been. But this is not the kind of game where they're going to need that effort from DeRozan, from LaVine. Now LaVine can always just go nuts, and I mean LaVine. The other night I was watching, I think he had one fantasy point like a couple minutes before halftime, and literally by halftime he had 35. Like, I was like, what is going on with it? Like, he just has that ability to break a slate. I think he's in play on FanDuel. That's what I would say about him. But I don't think we want to play these guys on DraftKings.
I throw one other thing. If you continue to see or believe that Terrence Ross is going to keep getting 30 minutes plus, I mean, 4,400 is ridiculous for him.
Yeah, I'm a little more skeptical of the back-to-back with him, but I understand it. And he's the reason. Like, it's weird because of all the guys on Orlando, he's probably the way you stay in the game, right? Like, you have Terrence Ross who makes maybe 4 threes in the first half and keeps the game from getting too far carried away. But I think we're going to find better plays in the slate.
Okay.
But early on, I agree that he's he does project as a guy who could put up a big game. I just think on the back-to-back off the injury, I don't know if I want to do it.
Okay.
All right, Detroit, Milwaukee, what do you got?
Not much. So Detroit, all their guys smashed, every one of them the other night, and they all got price bumps. Good for DraftKings and good for me to not have to play them. The only guy of Detroit that's of a price that I might be interested in is maybe taking a shot at Killian Hayes. But I'd just like to think that there's better. But just as we're going game by game, that's literally the only thing I had over there. And then on the other side, Giannis at 11-8. Fortunately or unfortunately, he's kind of a prisoner of minutes, right? But I'm only basing this on he's showing up as a good play on only a 32-minute minutes projection.
Yeah.
So I mean, if somehow he plays more than that, you're gonna want to have him. I just don't see too many universes where he plays more than that. I mean, I don't know. So he's definitely a play. He's definitely one of the better spend ups. I mean, I honestly have 5 of them like all together. I mean, like Harden, Beal, Jokic, Giannis, and Embiid. I like all of them. So I'm not gonna say Embiid's worse. I mean that Giannis is worse than any of them, and he's right now looking to be close to the lowest owned, I think. But again, that's going to change as well. So,
right.
So yeah, I mean, maybe Giannis, and I'm not going to play Killian Hayes. I'm not playing it with Detroit, but
it's too hard to play the Detroit guys with everybody coming back.
Yeah. Oh, is Cunningham back?
Yeah, Cunningham's supposed to be back. So is Hayes. Wow. By the way, I still think, I was all in on I was all about the Diallo stuff.
He's been playing good.
Man, he had some monster games, but that's when the usage goes to him, and I just don't see it happening quite the same. I still think he's in play on FanDuel. He's 7,600 over there, I believe. But it's a little bit. We're getting a little bit thin, I think, if we start trying to play these guys when everybody's healthy. They literally are, and they got Stephen Lee back, and they just got a lot of guys who can handle the ball and all that stuff back. So I'm a little bit off of it personally.
Okay.
How about Utah and New Orleans? What do you got?
Not a lot. I guess we'll watch Ingram whether he's in or not. The only guy really that I have for this whole game, I've maybe Rudy Gobert, as usual. That's all I always feel about him. Like maybe him.
Right.
And then New Orleans, I got Nickeil Alexander-Walker at 4,100.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing big for me though. That's pretty much it.
Feels like a really good Donovan Mitchell game at this price on DraftKings, maybe a little bit harder to get to, but on FanDuel, I think at 8,600, he's very reasonable. I don't really have a ton of interest in anybody else on the Utah side, which feels weird because, these teams both play fast, by the way. And we have to know about Brandon Ingram before I want to say anybody, but even if Brandon Ingram's outside of maybe Devontae Graham, maybe Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who I think is viable. I just don't think I need to go here. So I'm not that interested in this game, which feels weird because you have two fast-paced teams and you have the better team on the road. So it's usually the kind of game I'd like to target. Probably not going to happen for me today, at least until we hear about whether or not Ingram's in. And if Ingram is out, I think those other two guys do become in play. And then on FanDuel, Joe Val at 7,700 would become a great play. In fact, Joe Val is probably a good play anyway at 7,700, to be honest with you, on FanDuel. Go ahead, Denver.
Okay, so Jokic has really gotten on the wrong end of foul variance and a blowout variance the last couple of games. His last game in particular, he got foul issues, and by the time that that they put him back in the game was over. So that 44 points, I'm just basically throwing out. Boy, this Golden State game, I thought that he didn't get there. He actually got 60 after all that.
Yeah,
pretty crazy, actually.
I know, it's nuts.
Oh my God, that's how good he is, man. I can't see any reason why he wouldn't be in play again, except for the fact as opposed to where I thought this wasn't the case the other night. There's serious competition for raw points tonight. Between Embiid in a cupcake matchup if he can get the minutes, Giannis in a cupcake matchup if he gets the minutes, Beal in a situation where he's been freaking smashing in general, Harden because he's Harden. I mean, it's not like Jokic has the whole slate over a barrel with respect to fantasy points anymore,
Right.
So you don't want to play Jokic, you certainly don't have to play Jokic, and don't be surprised if he's only 15% owned as a result.
Oh, I think he might be much lower.
Oh, okay, very good. So don't be surprised if any of these guys are not that chalky because there's options up here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's good. The other side, I don't like anybody else in Denver. The other side, I almost forgot Luka was in the league. He's been uninspired. He's been uninspiring for fantasy points for basically the whole season, and then I guess he was hurt or
he's been out for
a month, right?
Yeah, a month basically.
Came back in a game that was in a ridiculous game. It was closer than could.
Very strange that they played him in that game, by the way.
Yeah,
on the front end of a back-to-back with Denver on the other side. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, this is 30. They gave him a full 32 minutes. Also, yeah, I'm not ready to play him yet. Even though he's going to be talking about all the low-owned guys, even the lowest owned of all of them, I think.
Yep.
But I don't think I'm ready to play him.
Yeah, I think that it's, I need him to hear that his minutes are good. This is a tough one because it is a back-to-back for them, and it does feel weird. I mean, my instinct is, first of all, I like Denver in this game. They're 4-point underdogs here, and I think Denver wins this game most of the time. Just if for nothing else, because of the back-to-back reasons with Luka just coming back and everything. And they had a kind of a cake game the other day Denver didn't have to play their guys even on 2 days ago. So I'm into the Jokic idea at low ownership, and that's pretty much all I have from this game. There is a chance that I might put Luka in a lineup just because the price is down so much and the ownership will be so low that it's kind of intriguing to me. But I don't know that I'm not gonna say he's a better play. I'm just thinking, I think he's viable as a longer shot tournament play. And who knows, maybe they sit Porzingis as a flip on the back-to-back. I doubt it. They need to win games, but I'm just throwing it out there that I think Luka, I mean, it wouldn't be surprising at all to see Luka back in there with his 60 again, and that would be really good for his price. And he's a little cheaper than the other guys, but it's hard for him to outscore Harden, Durant, and those guys who are close enough in price but on FanDuel, he's 10K. So he's a little bit more interesting over there. All right, Miami, Golden State, what do you got?
Yeah, so from a projection basis, I mean, no one's really showing up for me on either side of this game. Okay, now, but I will ask you this, kind of because you're the guy to ask about this. Isn't this like the type of game that Jimmy Butler just wants to show up in? I mean, that's I know Golden State plays great defense and all that stuff, but isn't this the type of game, exactly the type of game where Jimmy Butler is just going to go freaking nuts if he can? I don't know. That's my only comment on this game. I can't play Curry against Miami. with all these other guys at 11-5 that I like better. And I have nothing else, but can we play Butler?
I think it's viable. The back-to-back worries me a little bit. But Butler or Hero especially, I think would have a chance at a game here. I mean, he's on my list, but I don't know where I'm going to end up standing on that one. I do think he's probably more viable, and if the game is close, I mean, they're huge underdogs here. They're 11-point underdogs, which is pretty crazy for a Miami team that's not healthy, but like they're missing some other guys, but they're top three out of their top four are playing, so that's better than most teams have it these days. And then I don't think that there's anything to do, but maybe you play Curry is just like the long shot play, but not one that I'm especially interested in. Can certainly get there anytime, but they just play such good team basketball, and the Warriors are so deep. It's really hard for anybody to project especially well. So I don't have anybody on the other side, but I do think Butler or Hero probably has a nice game here. I just don't think I'm going to probably be a part of it. So
as long as we're pontificating about Miami for just a second, so let me talk about Eric Spoelstra for a minute. Okay, so Eric Spoelstra had the unfortunate reality of coaching LeBron, right? Not that it's bad to coach LeBron, but while he was there, I mean, as is the case wherever LeBron goes, the coach is always kind of viewed as, oh, you're just lucky, you're nothing, you're doing well because freaking LeBron is there. Okay. Listen, when I was doing coaching, at AAU, I would like watch videos of all these coaches, like that they put out coaching videos and stuff like that. And some guys are clowns, some guys are geniuses. Eric Spoelstra is freaking awesome. Okay,
he's great, man.
Eric Spoelstra is awesome, and Eric Spoelstra. Here's like an interesting bit of trivia. Do you know? You obviously remember Hank Gathers, right?
Yep, of course.
And Hank Gathers, for those who don't know, like could have been one of the great players. Certainly one of the best college scorers like ever.
Yep.
Played for Loyola Marymount, and he tragically died after collapsing from a heart condition, like right in the middle of the game. They were playing Portland State at the time, and Eric Spoelstra was on the court for the other team when Hank Gathers collapsed. That's a very
that's wild. I think I heard that once before, but I had kind of forgotten.
Weird bit of trivia. So Eric Spoelstra is awesome, and the fact that Miami can just continue to be competitive with all of their players out all the time is kind of amazing. So in any case, Butler's probably kind of fringy, but I just figured I would ask.
Yeah, I like the point though. I mean, and it's definitely well taken. I understand the idea that Butler could go off in that situation. What do you think about the Atlanta Portland game? Because we're going to get a lot of value on the Portland side.
Yeah. So welcome to Dennis Smith Jr. Chalk Day on FanDuel. I'll start with that. But we'll circle back to Portland in a minute. Let's start with Atlanta. You have I like Trae Young at 11-1. He's been doing well. It's just another one of these like Bradley Beal type plays, which I might be interested in. He put up 62 against the best team in basketball, that being Cleveland, in the last game. So he's got to have something. And Portland, I mean, they have they're out guys. It's gonna be tough. Well, I maybe they're defensively better with Lillard out, now that I think about it. So maybe it's not as smash of a spot. I don't know. I like Trae. And I'm getting some weird guys. Like I'm getting a Kongwu, even though Capella's in. I have to think about that. And I'm getting TLC for some reason. I don't know what's going on with that. So those are two guys I want to think more about. On the Portland side, I mean, with Lillard out, so you got Simons on DraftKings, you get Simons, you get Powell, you get Dennis Smith Jr., you get Little, you get Nance, you get Covington. All these guys are in play. And Smith Jr. specifically on FanDuel is much cheaper. He's showing up as just almost a tremendous value on FanDuel, which is a site that usually don't need that type of value. So I don't know what I'm going to end up doing with that. So that's that. So I guess from a construction perspective, you could do one of those things where you play freaking four Blazers with Trae. Hope Portland keeps it close. I don't know what the spread is there. It's got to be pretty big, right?
5.5.
Oh, not that bad.
Atlanta's
So-
terrible. People don't realize this, but Atlanta's been like the worst. Like they've been awful, and
So-
they don't defend.
So you play a bunch of Portlands and then you run it back with Trey and see what happens.
Yeah. So just start off with the Cleveland side because this game is going to be the important one. I'll start with the Atlanta side. The Okongwu thing, I honestly don't know what I'm doing with that. Because I think that he could still get there and they could use him as in addition to, it's not the kind of matchup where they would need to do that, but I do think that he's a guy they like. And the only problem is they just got everybody back. Like, that's why I have trouble with the Lillard thing. Like, they now have all their players. Maybe somebody sits tonight.
The Lillard thing, Trey thing, you mean?
I mean, yeah, the Trey thing. I'm sorry. I meant
the Lillard thing. Okay.
Yeah, I meant Trey. I mean, Gallinari is back. Herder's back. Reddish is there. Lou Will is even back for his minutes. TLC, the reason why I think that the minutes might be real, even though I'm sort of skeptical because I just named a bunch of other guys, is because their defense has been just god awful. But I don't think I really want to play TLC. I just don't think that's on this kind of a slate. Like, sure, he could always put up that one game that he has, every few weeks when he plays, but I don't know. I'm much more interested on the other side. I think Simons is the preferred play. I think Norman Powell is going to be really popular, and it's a great matchup. The price is fine, but I will probably fade Norman Powell as mega chalk at 6,500. I do like him. Don't get me wrong. I just think that it's a little bit more than I want to pay. And I'd like to take some shots. I don't know exactly why the projection is as low as it is for Dennis Smith. I'm sorry, for Nasir Little. I know he didn't get any run in the last game, and it's in flux a little bit for him. It feels like these days. But without Dame there, I could see them running a lot through him. So I actually like Nasir Little a lot here, and he can do things offensively. So if I was going to fade Powell, maybe you play Little and Simons. And then I think DSJ is in play on both sides, to be honest with you. There's also if you want to try to find the reason to fade him, and I'm not saying you should play this guy on FanDuel. I'm actually not going to say you should play him on DraftKings either, but I will say that Ben McLemore will put up games. I mean, he shot the ball. He put up 14 threes against the Lakers the other night. Now, that was a blowout, but he put up 36 fantasy points. And, most of the other guys, I'm going to say throw away that Laker game. But there's a chance Ben McLemore could get it going here. And be that long shot tournament play that maybe gets you home. So I'm just going to put him on my list. But the priorities would be Simons, then Little on DraftKings, then DSJ, then Powell for me. Powell's it's hard because he's not a guy who you run all your offense through. Like, around the 5K range is where I like him a little better, because like he could have a good game and put up 35, and I just don't feel like that's all that exciting at his ownership and at his price on this particular slate. So that's where I'm at over there.
The other thing about McLemore, by the way, is that he could take some of these like some DSJ or even Simon's minutes maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. If you want to fade them, that would be your argument for it, is that McLemore gets hot or something and they run their lineup a little differently. Obviously, we're not gonna have a starting lineup till well after the main slate locks, so just keep that in mind. All right, we have an interesting one. The next one. Do you want to start it off?
Yeah. So we got to watch the injury report here. Because you have Karl Anthony Towns. I don't. Oh, it says out now.
I have his out.
Oh, he is out. All right, good. Okay, so I'm not worried about that anymore. D'Angelo Russell out. Good. I don't have to worry about that anymore either. All right, so with that said, the three guys that I like on Minnesota are going to be Anthony Edwards. And I have to imagine, with those guys confirmed out, that he's going to be pretty popular. I mean, I don't
think so.
Well, if not, I mean, I'm going to be. This is he's the man, right? I mean,
Yep.
So Edwards, and then Beverly's fine. Vanderbilt's the next guy I have, and then on again, I'll throw in a little FanDuel difference. For whatever reason, I think Naz Reid showing up on FanDuel for some reason. I don't know why it wouldn't show up on DraftKings for me, but actually is showing up on DraftKings a little bit. I'm sorry about that. So Naz Reid as well. And I like all those guys in Minnesota, but I think Edwards is freaking the real high upside ceiling spot. I mean, not let's say spot, but ceiling situation for him with all these guys out.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I like Edwards too.
Yeah, and I would say on the Clippers side, the three guys are Marcus Morris, probably the best play for me. And then there's once again, you have Serge, who he's going to continue to project to be really, really good, and he's going to still end up only playing 20 minutes. They've been saying that they haven't slotted for all these minutes, but they're just not exactly giving it to him, So I don't know. He's still going to project to be a good player though. So there's Serge, and then there's I have a Martin listed. Is there a Martin on the Clippers? I should be. Oh man, sorry about that.
Yeah,
man, I think's okay also. So those three guys on the Clippers, with Morris being my favorite.
yeah. I can't believe I'm gonna say this. I think Amir Coffey is in play. It's a back-to-back for both of these teams. They didn't have to go very far, but still, I like Marcus Morris, but again, I don't think it's a must. Baca on a back-to-back, I don't even know what they're going to do with that. Reggie Jackson is back in the building, so I actually think that there's probably enough upside to get him there. It's not like my favorite kind of play, but on FanDuel at 6K, Reggie Jackson definitely stands out as another good value. I think Morris is probably the best play at first look. I think there is some argument for Coffey, and I think there's an argument for Terrence Mann. That's the way that I've got it right now. Mann is feels a little thin, just if you look at the box scores and everything, but it's a good matchup, and I think he's pretty safe to get the minutes. So that's what I have about that. Patrick Beverley in a revenge game, you're going to have to talk me out of not playing him here.
Oh, it's that. I forgot about that.
Back in LA. But I even more than that, it's just that he's consistently been producing with the lineup currently as it's constructed. I expect him to have probably even better usage in this game than he has had. It's been in the low 20s at best. I think you could see more from that today, not to mention their steal block upside against a team that's going to play sloppy. So I think between Beverly, Edwards, and Reed, and then your long shot play for me is Beasley, and you just hope that Beasley, gets really hot. But somebody's going to have to do something. I mean, Beasley's been shooting the ball pretty poorly. He had a couple of okay games, but we do get that you see the ceiling against that Utah matchup. One of the few things I did right that night was playing him, and he put up 46 in that one. But I would rank them Edwards, Beverly, then probably Reed, and then Beasley.
I got one for you.
What's that?
So I got something for you. Like in case if you want to if you're doing poorly later or something like that, or if you want to just do something whatever, if you don't think that they're going to give Serge full minutes, or God forbid he's out or whatever, first of all, take a look at Nicholas Batum and see what's going on with this.
Yep. Okay.
Because he could play the 5 if he plays.
Yep.
And if he doesn't play, then it's Wenyen Gabriel season, no?
Remember, they don't need to play big at all against Minnesota.
Well, it's either that, or is it time for Harry Giles? I don't know.
Oh my goodness! I didn't even think about that one. I thought you were going to say Justice Winslow, who I actually was my next guy.
I'm looking at anybody who's over 6'4" on the team to play for the 5.
There you go. Maybe. I get it. Okay.
I don't know. I'm gonna keep an eye on this. But if they announce Serge Ibaka out for rest or something on back-to-back, I mean, someone's got to play the 5.
Marcus Morris plays the 5.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only thing I would say is like,
okay.
But I mean, he's not going to play every. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. It's definitely worth. You're going to want, like, it's pretty obvious to tell after you go through this slate that you're going to want to try and stack these late games.
Yeah.
For the most part, and especially if we're going to have news that's going to make us want to play guys in the earlier games. Just try to stay like a little bit, as much as you can, slant towards the later games, because we have question marks in those games. They're back-to-backs there, and there could be a couple pieces of information that make somebody an unbelievable play, and even the starting lineup for Portland is going to matter a lot. The Clippers, if they sit anybody, Minnesota, if they sit anybody, there's a lot of stuff in these later games that are kind of interesting, in my opinion. So I think that's an interesting way to go. Also, you never know if Miami might end up sitting somebody as well, and just sort of conceding the game. I don't see that as being the most likely route though. But they're definitely, those late games definitely have some appeal. And you could even honestly play, you might know by then, you could even play the Jokic thing with a bunch of the cheaper guys in the later games. And then if you do hear about some stuff before, after lock, but before 8:30, you could make some pivots like that. I just think it's really important to think about, game theory and on this kind of a slate, especially. Real quickly on FanDuel, some of the guys who I had as priorities over there, Simons and DSJ, which is interesting, and it makes you already want to get into a game stack. Norman Powell is going to project as one of the best plays on the slate on FanDuel. Daniel Gaffer is going to project even better than he does on DraftKings over there because of the shot blocking upside. I think Beal, Kuzma, maybe Diallo, and Donovan Mitchell are guys who really stand out with their price differences. Did you have anything on FanDuel that you wanted to touch on?
No, the guys that I had separately that was better on FanDuel, I kind of went over. That would be Tyus Jones in Memphis, and Naz Reid, and then Dennis Smith Jr. is a much better play on FanDuel also.
Yep. And as far as the DraftKings priorities, I've got the Houston situation, the Portland situation, as just we have to figure out what's going to happen with those. Gafford, Harden or Durant, I think are interesting. I really like Jokic because of the ownership and the matchup. By the way, I mean, who's going to play against him in Dallas? They're going to double team him the whole game. So great, he'll get 20 assists. I think Okongwu is interesting. I want to kind of speculate on this one because he's coming back from the COVID protocols. Maybe he's limited, maybe he's not, and I still think they can play him at the 4 alongside of Capella. Simons as a priority. Nasir Little as a borderline priority, same with DSJ, but then Patrick Beverly, Edwards, and Reed as my final guess.
I will conclude by saying I really do hope that at least 30% of the plays that we discussed are viable when we go live at 6 o'clock.
And look at this, Bobby. Good read. Kristaps Porzingis ruled out.
And
Sorry,
there you have
I
it.
did mention that one. I thought there was an outside chance, and they did it. And that's going to put Luka in heavier play for me. Because if they're going to,
I will tell you who else it is going to put in play. So I had, just so you know, as kind of a secondary thing I just didn't bring up, I had Luka and possibly Kleber. That was assuming Kristaps was in.
Yep.
So now, well, obviously he's going to be popular now, but he certainly is going to.
Kleber's not going to be popular.
Well, then he will be played.
Okay. Unless I'm missing something completely, I don't see how Kleber ends up popular. Maybe on FanDuel at 3,600.
Okay.
But I like that call. I like him especially.
He's only 3,600 on DraftKings.
He's 45 on DraftKings, right?
Not on my board.
What am I looking at? Oh, I'm looking at FanDuel. He's 44 on FanDuel. I got them switched. Okay, Kleber then is probably going to be a little bit higher owned than that, and just play with caution. Remember that Kleber does not have to put up anything. But he if he's going to be owned, if he's not owned, he can put up 35 and you look like a stud. Anyway, all right. Well, good luck to everybody. We're going to be back. Shoot, you ready to do a football one?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do a football Monday night showdown. And good luck, everybody. Sorry for the long video, but hopefully it was worthwhile. I think that we touched on a lot of good stuff. And we'll hopefully see you guys at the top of the leaderboards tonight.